Good morning, everyone. This is Lawrence doing a video response to Pete, who just reached his 100 subscribers. And Rachel has spurred me on to do this video. It's called a guilty pleasure video. And this thought has crossed my mind to do such a video. So I guess this is the time. So what we're doing is we're taking 5 musical artists or trends, and that's not considered cool, like this kind of cool, okay? Grateful Dead. And just selecting 5 that you like, that you're kind of in the closet about. And so, you have to be in the closet for some of this stuff. I mean, when I was a teenager, one of the artists I'm going to feature, I love them at the time when they were big. But, I couldn't go to my peers, my friends, my buds and say, mention that I like them. I had to keep it underground, and it's not like, it's okay, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, The Who, The Grateful Dead, all that was cool, okay? So, I want to keep this video short. I just moved the table a little bit. So here are my 5 guilty pleasures, and there are more, there are more. But I just selected 5 here. The first one is Barry Manilow. Yes, Barry. Had a slew of hits in the 70s. And I always just loved his voice and his songs. I mean, his songs would start off really quiet and slow, like, I remember all my life raining down as cold as ice. Shadows of a man, a face through the window, crying in the night. The night goes into morning, just another day. Of course, this song's about losing Mandy. And if you were, a teenage guy in the 70s or any time now, and you had a crush on a girl or you broke up with a girl, that song really applies. The thing about Barry Manilow's music, his songs, they start off real slow. I remember, I write the music, they start off really slow and they build, and they build until Barry just throws everything in it, the whole Phil Spector wall of sound production. He throws everything in, including the kitchen sink. So I actually found this album at a thrift store. Nice collection, 2-disc set and all that. And I thought to myself, well, hell, this is all the Barry I'll ever need in my life. But I was at another thrift store sometime later, and look what I ran across for $1.99. Okay, and this is right now. You could find CDs at thrift stores really cheap because people are just dumping their thrift store finds. Their CDs at thrift stores. Okay, the Barry Manilow box set. How cool is that? You open it up, and it's it's 4 CDs, along with all the listings of the songs on the box and recording dates and where they charted. A really, really nice booklet here. And you could tell this set, it's how old it is because it contained a on VHS tape, a performance by Barry Manilow, and I have to reconnect up my VHS player and watch this one night. Cards and other things. So I got this for $1.99. I couldn't turn that down. A nice picture of Barry. And listening to this, I just did not give that man enough credit, because this is a great collection, and he was it still is an excellent musician, just great, and great voice. There's one song on here. I wish I located it. I'm not going to spend all that time. I'll put it in the comment area. But it's about a song about a woman who gets married, and she finds her life situation in the marriage unfulfilling, So, there was something deeper going on in his music. But Barry Manilow, the complete collection, and then some, it's called. And I got this for, no, $1.25. So, guilty pleasure number one. And put Barry away. Guilty pleasure number two, and this should not be a guilty pleasure. This should not. And I'm going to do a video on this in the future. But I absolutely love disco. I loved disco at the time when it was popular. I still love it now. And this is a K-Tel great. This is a great collection by K-Tel. Not only does it have hits, the big hits, but also stuff that was more popular in the clubs that didn't make the radio. And these aren't really cut down versions, to make, songs fit on one disc. A lot of songs fit on one disc. This is a two disc set in here. Okay. Disco Fire. Disco dance lessons inside. Check this out. So you got people like Pete Brown, Samantha Sang, Donna Summers, the Tramps with 2 M's, Disco Inferno, I Feel Love, You Keep Me Dancing, and Dance With Me. It contains about 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22, 24 songs, so very unusual for a K-Tel selection to have not tried to squeeze a lot of tracks. They leave room for them to breathe. And there is what's unusual is there are extended versions on here as well. So just to conclude about disco and why I love it, and I was I'm so teed off the way it was treated toward the end with the disco burning of the disco records in that ballpark. I think it was in Cincinnati. Disco was really good music. Really, to me, it was the extension of R&B and funk. It was just extension of that. It was just dressed up and brought uptown to the clubs to dance, and there was nothing wrong. And I think it was great for people of that time to go out, get dressed up, to go out to a nice club and disco. I did a few some of that myself, not too much. And rock fans felt like disco was a threat. No, it wasn't. I think disco and rock music coexisted pretty much. Now, disco kind of dominated the 45 single charts, and where rock was pretty much more of an album form. And during the disco era, you had some of the biggest rock albums ever. Yeah, Boston debut, Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, Hotel California, Cheap Trick live at the Budokan. So they coexisted beautifully, but you had some, just these rock fans. Well, the disco sucks. It's not deep. There's a lot of rock music that's not deep too. So nothing wrong. Hey, let's go out and dance, have a good times. Ooh, baby. Um, so I think I did my pro disco video there. Another artist, and this artist here was really popular in the 70s, and they had a really resurgence or a kind of a reevaluation, and there was a music, a movie musical or whatever done on them. And I'm talking about, let me pull this out of the sleeve. ABBA. ABBA. I think they had some of the great singles, top 40s, and I've since gotten some of their albums, and so a lot of really good, deep album tracks as well. Yeah, Gatefold. This was a very good thrift store find. This is the ABBA, the singles, the first 10 years. And look at that picture, okay? That's very cool. I thought songs like Waterloo and SOS I fell in love with. I thought they charted very well. They went in top 10. But I thought at least SOS and Waterloo would go number one, but it was Dancing Queen, their only number one record. But they had a very consistent charting of singles in the 70s. Okay, so ABBA, I love ABBA. And okay, my next one is, and primarily you find this music at thrift stores in the vinyl. Instrumental music that was meant for, grown people, adults. Instrumental music from the 50s and 60s, early 60s. And these albums I'm going to show here are on a label that pioneered the use of stereo. And that's a video to itself, but is called Command Records. And the guy who started it was not happy with the traditional labels. And he started his own label, and they experimented with this was the early stages of stereo, so they experimented with stereo and did something called ping pong stereo, where you an instrument will bounce back and forth from one channel to another, one speaker to another, and they also pioneered the gatefold. They were the first company that used the gatefold record company, and they were famous for their artwork that was done with shapes and angles, and they use jazz musicians. Okay, again, I might do find a little documentary or something on this label and post it. But here's one of the albums, and they release a lot of albums in the late 50s and the 60s on Command Records, Gatefold, and they went into. Let me show this one too. little artwork, but they went in detail about how each song was recording, the technical end of it, and lots of good liner notes, and explained of what each piece of music, which each track went into it, and the technical data. So Command Records, I'm going to see if I can find something on them. And along the same lines, once Command started doing that, other record companies went into experimental stereo sound. And one of them was a four-phase stereo, London Records. Okay. And I got a number of these as well. I got a huge Command collection, and I've got some of that artwork on the wall, which you'll see when I do my Vinyl Room video. So there was also Four Phase London. They put out a lot of records, and Gatefold, Technical Information. You know, they were copying what Command, or following what Command did. And the London, I really like the Brazilian albums they put out. And I'll post the link of a video I did of me playing one of these records so you can hear. Okay, we got to wind this up. The last one, and this is probably the most embarrassing, but let me explain. This tops it, okay? Lawrence Welk. It's not so much his music, it's the show, the Lawrence Welk, hour, whatever it was called, okay? It ran for many, many, many years, and anyone my age who had a grandmother, watched that show. I had a grandmother who wore the muumuu, who kind of had the skin, the sagging skin under here, and had the cream, that funky smelling cream on, and she would always watch her Lawrence Welk. Well, and I thought it was, cornball, old fashioned and all that, so I avoided it like nuclear waste. But years later, when PBS picked up the episodes of the Lawrence Welk show and started running it, I tune in just to kind of make fun of it, do a little Mystery Science Theater, but I couldn't stop watching. I started enjoying it, and that was scary. That was downright scary, because it was everything that I was against when I was growing up. But to years later to get a retrospective, view of outlook on it, I find it more interesting now. I find it more interesting, and especially when in their later years when they started doing pop songs, or I think they even did some Beatles in the Lawrence Welk style. That was very amusing. So congratulations, Pete, on your 100 prescriptions. I wish you well. I will tune in and watch some of your videos. I probably will subscribe to it. Thank you so much for everything, Rachel, for being a supportive of my channel and an encourager, and hey, we're partners in crime, Okay, so we're on 19 going in 20 minutes, so I'm going to end it here. Some of my guilty pleasures. Maybe there's a part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.